Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_dada. Well, we are starting to encroach a little bit on Seattle Seahawks game, so we should probably begin the process of talking about some stuff here. Let's get the injury report out of the way. Nothing really new going on for the Green Bay Packers. Bullard, again, he's not playing. They apparently saw him in a walking boot and crutches, so not this week. I would venture to guess unlikely for next week, but, we'll see. Limited participants: Corey Ballantyne, Kenny Clark, Edgerrin Cooper, Elton Jenkins, Isaiah McDuffie, Rasheed Walker, Luke Musgrave, also limited. He is apparently unlikely to play against the Seahawks. I don't know that it was ever actually realistically likely, but a man can dream, We'll see. Never know. He might play. Still in concussion protocol, Romeo Doubs and Evan Williams. Evan Williams was limited. Romeo Doubs is still full, so you assume he's in the final stages of the concussion protocol, which would lead me to believe he's going to play, but I don't have any idea how that concussion stuff works, as evidenced by the fact that none of this is making sense to me. And as for today, Jair is still a full participant, so no backsliding, nothing like that. So that's fantastic news. Looking at the Seahawks injury report, I'm waiting for them to officially update. I got as recent as I can find. I don't know. They're just not putting Thursdays up here at 6 o'clock. Packers at least, went to the podium, gave an overview of what was going on. I can't see anything for the Seahawks. Some of these teams, man, I swear, they just don't give a crap. Like, we don't talk to the media. We don't do what we're supposed to do. I don't care. Anyways, considering we don't know anything about the Seahawks as a franchise, the stuff they're going through, like we know about Jair's struggles and everybody else, it's still an overview. So here we go. Stone Forsythe has a hand injury. He's a tackle, but he should be ready to go. DK Metcalf has a shoulder injury. He was a full participant on Wednesday. Injuries always have some kind of an impact no matter what, but he should be fine to go. Abraham Lucas, another tackle, was another full participant. He's got a knee issue. Uchenna Nwosu, linebacker, has a thigh injury, again, full participant. Artie Burns, cornerback, toe injury, was a full participant. And then Kayvon Wallace, strong safety, ankle injury, full participant. They got Laken Tomlinson on rest. Tyler Lockett was just rest. Jerron Reed was rest. Boye Mafe was rest, which, you look at this huge list and it's like, oh, man, they got a lot of people out. And then you realize most of it's rest. And it's like, oh, man. However, it points at kind of how old this team is when you have that many people on veteran rest. Brady Russell has a foot injury. He was limited. He is a depth guy, though, so it's not a massive issue. And then Michael Dixon, the punter, has a back injury. He was limited. The team did add punter Ty Zenter to the practice squad as a precaution. Not going to overreact to that at this point. We'll assume he's going to play. If it gets a little bit closer, it's kind of a big deal. So we will keep an eye on that. Then you've got some of the more juicy things that are potentially impactful here. Potentially the biggest one, Kenneth Walker, running back, sustained a calf injury week 13 against the Jets. He did not participate on Wednesday. Again, no idea what happened on Thursday. Head coach Mike McDonald described Walker as day-to-day. Said it's not a long-term injury, but his availability for the Packer game is uncertain. He's a major part of the offense. However, it was noted that Zach Charbonnet came in last week, put up 134 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So the drop-off may not be drastic, but again, we'll close in on some of those details as we move along. Today, we're just kind of skimming the surface a little bit. Trey Brown, cornerback, has a hamstring injury. He did not participate on Wednesday. He is a starting cornerback. So, no matter how bad a cornerback is, it's impactful. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying you understand. Even, Valentine is not the greatest corner in the world, but if he's hurt, it's like, crap. Dang it. More on that in a minute. Jarek Reed, free safeties, dealing with a quad injury. He did not participate. little bit more of a depth guy, but he is also a special teamer, so that has some impact. Leonard Williams, obviously, I'm sure you're aware of him. It was veteran rust, but he also was dealing with a foot injury, so I don't know how much of his not participating was due to the foot injury compared to the rest. But either way, he is a pretty crucial piece of this defense. And then Ernest Jones, linebacker, same situation, veteran rest and knee injury, and he didn't participate. I don't know how much of each, but he is another important piece. So, again, I would love it. Let me refresh again if I could just, because a lot of these veteran rest guys come right on back on Thursday, and then you can kind of separate these out, especially for Ernest Jones and Leonard Williams. But I cannot at this time. Packers haven't updated it either. I don't know. You have to have this in by, I believe, 3 o'clock Central Time. That was 3 hours ago. So I don't know if, this is all reported to the league office and whoever updates this is just being lazy or what the situation is. But I don't know. And their media either doesn't know either or just doesn't feel like doing anything today. Because they're just it's like, hey, guys, how's your team doing? I don't know. Do you want to know about how great Jackson Smith and Jigba is? No, not today. Any news on the injuries? I can tell you about our playoff chances. Okay, well, did you know Tyrese Knight won Rookie of the Week? Guys, for crying out loud. No, I didn't. Why don't you tell me all about it? That sounds great. Anyways, let's back up a little bit. I want to make sure we touched on that, but I want to zoom out to the outside of the NFL. I just very briefly have to touch on this. This is the dumbest thing I saw. It's a couple days old now, but I cannot not mention this. Representative Josh Williams, representative for the people, husband to Naira, father to Matthew, attorney and college professor, personal campaign page. Okay. He says, and I can't believe proud is in this, I am proud to introduce the OHIO Sportsmanship Act to make flag planting at midfield a felony in the state of Ohio. Behavior that incites violent brawls and puts our law enforcement officers in danger has no place on the football field. That's crazy. Look, I get that what happened wasn't super great, okay? I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast or not, or even talked about it. I don't know. I never know what I think in my head and what I say on the show. I'm not really mad at a team for planting a flag. It's just talking trash. I'm certainly not mad at Ohio State for saying, you know what, I'm going to beat the crap out of you for doing that. And I'm not mad at the police for spraying pepper spray at players when they're getting smashed by guys in helmets. That's just going to happen. You know what? Stuff happens. Everybody's okay. Everybody's fine. Nobody needed to get arrested. It was a minor skirmish. It was kids getting into it a little bit, a little pushing and shoving, little grabbing. Got a little carried away with the police, Got to watch out when there's cops in there, man. You can't be knocking them down to the ground and whatnot. It's going to get a little out of hand pretty quick. But, lesson learned. We move on with our lives. Everything's fine. Felony, bro? Come on. Just need to calm down. Calm down, okay? You know what I really don't like are these sort of preventative laws. It's I want to make it a felony because if you do that, then maybe somebody will have an unbelievably irrational response, and then maybe the police will get involved with that response, and then maybe the police officers will get hurt, and then bro, what are you talking about? You want to make it a felony to put a flag in grass? Well, it's all the 7 maybes that could happen. No. A felony to put a flag in grass. That's what you're actually saying that you want to do. Because here's the thing, all that bad stuff that comes later, already a crime. Okay? If somebody assaults a police officer, that is already a crime. So we don't need to worry about the preventative felonies. Why don't you just punish bad things that happen, that are crimes? Because I'm pretty sure putting flags in grass is not a crime, nor should it be a crime. That's stupid. So many preventative laws. Well, we got to do this because then maybe it'll deter this. Okay, but that's the bad thing. So why don't you punish that and not something that isn't immoral or bad, because maybe that'll become a bad thing? That's so stupid. I will never understand that. It's that whole we have to do something mentality. Bro, shut up. Yes, do something to the bad guys. Don't punish good people because maybe they do something that they shouldn't do, which will escalate into this, which will turn into this, which could possibly be this. I don't care. I'm going to put kids in prison with a felony charge for putting a flag in grass. My Lord. I have a feeling this is just going to disappear. I was kind of checking out the status of it, and they're saying essentially there's not time for this session for it to get in. So it would have to be reintroduced like next year sometime or something like that. Considering how much this is just getting abused, I wouldn't be surprised if it just just disappears. You're not going to see it again. But what a stupid thing. In NFC North news, apparently the fan who was doing the whole throat-slitting thing that got into an argument with Matt LaFleur, Lions confirmed they have revoked the season tickets of the fan who had the preseason altercation with Packers coach Matt LaFleur at Ford Field last week. I talked to the fan this morning. He says he's devastated and sorry. I gotta be honest, man. A lot of people are dunking on the guy. I kind of feel bad a little bit. Like, maybe I shouldn't. It's pretty stupid. I stand by everything I said. It's childish freaking behavior. I stand by the fact that Detroit Lions fans do not know how to act. It's ridiculous. First time I've ever seen a fan get into an altercation with a head coach. It's insane that these guys act this stupid. It's a heck of a cost, but yeah, it's absolutely absurd. And then to start doing a whole media tour about your experience and whatnot probably didn't work out super great for you. So look, as I said, Lions fans got to be taken down a few pegs. Okay, let's start with their fans being kind of scumbags. Okay. Punishment. Now we need to start going after their players. You're diving at people's knees. You're punching my quarterback in the face after the ball comes out. There should be punishments. There should be fines that are coming down. Okay, they need to start getting a lot of blowback because this is getting out of control. And then the stupid head coach with his aggressiveness, he needs to start getting punched in the mouth. Some of these fourth downs need to not be converted. If he's converting 20% instead of 80%, he's going to lose that game in a landslide, and suddenly that aggressiveness is going to go to zero. But somebody's got to actually put these frickin' idiots in their place. This is a good start. All right, here we go. Apparently 6:30 is when they feel like putting their stuff out here. This is very small to read here, but cornerback Trey Brown did not participate for the second day in a row. The punter did go to full participation, so we don't need to super worry about that. Jonathan Hankins, nose tackle, was added, did not participate. It says veteran rest, kind of random to not do that Wednesday, but to do it Thursday, whatever. Linebacker Ernest Jones went from did not participate to limited. Tyler Lockett, who is on rest, is back to full. We've got Abraham Lucas, the tackle, did not participate. He was full and then did not participate. It says rest. Again, I don't know what the heck they're doing. This is random. Boye Mafe was just rest. He's fine. DK Metcalf went from full to limited, so that's actually kind of interesting and worth keeping an eye on. He's got that shoulder injury, so him taking a half a step back, we'll see what happens there. Let's see. That was just veteran rest, so he's back in town. Jerick Reed, safety, didn't participate again today. Brady Russell, tight end, was limited. He did not participate, so he went backwards. Laken Tomlinson was just rest. Kenneth Walker is one of the big ones. He did not participate again on Thursday, so that's probably the biggest one to keep an eye on. Kayvon Wallace, the safety, continues to be full, and Leonard Williams went from did not participate to limited. So the did not participate was likely due to the rest. Now we can see where he's at with his foot injury, and that is limited participant. So, all right, again, we'll kind of, I think maybe tomorrow when we get the Friday report, we'll have a better idea, and then we can kind of parse through the different players when we go through their roster and whatnot. For now, though, why don't we take a break, and we'll be right back. So I just had to play this. Don't have much to say about the Lions, but again, just the two things. Number one, the fan getting that, which, again, I feel slightly bad about it, but I think it's necessary. They need to frickin' chill out. This is also hilarious. So I don't really watch this at all, but the St. Brown brothers have their podcast. They got a bunch of people on. I think Jaden Reed was on at some point. I don't know exactly what happened. They said something about they make you get married when you come here. I don't know. Anyways, I thought this was hilarious because Equanimous, former Green Bay Packers wide receiver, is dunking on the Detroit Lions and their fans for essentially being a bunch of frauds.
We're sold out. It's like Lions. Like when you guys are losing, your shit's half empty.
No, they're showing up, gang. That's the difference.
No,
see?
I played there before.
They're showing up, gang.
I played there early in my career, bro.
Win, lose, or draw,
I'm telling you. When you guys were I was there, bro.
They're there.
So Amon-Ra is clearly the more dominant and assertive brother, even though I think he's the younger one. But it doesn't matter because the fact of the matter is EQ is stating a fact and Amon-Ra is just talking trash. The bottom line is he's like, I played there early in my career, before you were with the Lions, before you guys became good. That stadium was half empty. They didn't show up. They were not there. So I really appreciated that because, again, very needed, as they're all just filling stadiums and cheering and dunking on everybody. Yeah, guess what? You're all a bunch of frauds. Actually, Clayton had pointed this out. I don't think I can... I don't know exactly where it was. I'll try to go back and find it, but he had posted some kind of a statistic showing that they had the lowest turnout back in, 2020 or something, of any fan base. And I think it was even as a percentage, because they have a smaller stadium that has less capacity. But even when you look at the amount of seats not filled as a percentage, I think it was still the highest. Terrible fans. Anyways, I found this hilarious too. The Packers have been on an absolute tear as far as either officially eliminating people or essentially eliminating people from the playoffs. They've been doing that quite a bit. If you go prior to the Lions, obviously. We've crushed, it ended up being the 49ers that officially eliminated the Bears, but I like to think that we pretty much crushed them. I think they were basically done anyways, but whatever, I don't care. 49ers, they had a last gasp against us. Their odds plummeted. Miami, if they beat us, their odds are 60, 70%. If they lose, it's down in the dumps. We beat them. And now we have the Seahawks. And the Seahawks have been doing a great job, very similar to Miami, of having their odds ascend. Their odds were down in the dumps, and then they've gone on a 4-game winning streak to bring their odds up to 60%. Now, we can't eliminate the Seahawks or really come even close to that, but this is a pivotal game for them. If the Packers beat the Seahawks, they drop below 50%. They go from 60% down to 48, 47. If they win, 77%. This is a tipping point game for them. Whether it's less than 50% or quite likely that they make the playoffs, very much hinges on this game. Now, the absolute most important game is going to be the Rams game at the end of their season, but the Packers have been dealing with this a lot. These sort of teams that are on the cusp, that are kind of backed up against the wall. These aren't so much backed up as they are ascending. And again, as long as they beat the Rams, they're sitting pretty. But I like the position we're in. I like to be able to be this sort of giant Goliath sitting in your way. And I am very impressed with the Packers because they have faced this over and over and over and over again, and they've risen to the occasion. Right? Again, Miami, they are ascending. They are destroying teams. They're just dominating everybody. And now you've got your first real test, and it's the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers smacked them down like they didn't even exist. Just stomped them out. San Francisco, hanging on by a thread. They need a comeback. This is the game. We beat the Packers. We're in this. If we lose, we're really screwed. Packers beat the living crap out of the San Francisco 49ers. Bears, I don't know, maybe 10% chance if we beat the Packers. 0.1 if we lose. Packers beat them too. No matter what, I think the Packers have done a fantastic job in really tough situations like that. But make no mistake, this is one of the bigger ones. I can't necessarily compare it to Miami or whatever, because again, Miami was really, really doing a great job. It's harder to decipher Seattle, and I'll get into that in a second. But this is, make no mistake, it's a playoff game. And as some people have pointed out, this is a really good test because this is a playoff game against a pretty standard, early round playoff opponent, and it's on the road, which the Packers will be for the first, 2 games or so, at least, probably more. And so this is it. It's not it. I mean, you can lose and be fine, but this is a very, very, very good test. I don't know that you could come up with a better one. It's far West Coast. Playoff team, but not dominant. Skilled enough in all phases, offense, defense, special teams, that you have to actually play well. Can you travel across the country, play a playoff team on the road in the elements, and come away with a win? That's the question. And so again, if we look at the Seahawks, it is rather impressive. Now, you can look at this through different eyes and say it's not super impressive, but any team that goes on a 4-game win streak, especially when you're sitting at 4-5, plus it's when you came out of the bye, so you look at it and go, okay, you're coming back healthier, stronger, new game plan, offense and defense, you're figuring stuff out, cool. Very similar to a lot of our other opponents, too. The praise is on offense when really it's the defense that's been carrying the team. It's almost identical to what we saw with Miami and everybody else. It's all about Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, blah, 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 blah. One game they hit 30. Otherwise, it was 26, 16, and 20. That's not that great. Defensively, 17, 6, 21, and 18. But the 4 games were San Francisco 49ers. It was on the road, which, not super far, but on the road. And they won 20-17. Very close game with a pretty beat-up San Francisco 49ers team. Then, another division rival, Arizona Cardinals. They beat them 16-6. Now, divisional games are always kind of tricky. You never really know, but still, they beat them. Then you got the Jets. This is on the road. It's across the country. 2 road games in the last 3 weeks. Beat them 26-21. Now, you could say 3 wins in a row, or you could say the Jets almost beat you and the Jets suck, you suck. Then they have their 3rd road game in 4 weeks. It's the Arizona Cardinals again, and this time they beat them 30-18. Their 2 rather decisive wins were against the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe there's not much to read into that because they just kind of have the Cardinals number. And you can look at the 49ers barely beating the 49ers and barely beating the Jets and not be impressed. But however you want to look at it, they're on a 4-game win streak. They're obviously in some kind of a groove. They've worked some different things out. The defense is playing significantly better, which is the major driver behind this. They give up 42 to the Lions, 29 to the Giants, 36 to the 49ers, 31 to the Bills, 26 to the Rams. And the most they've given up since the bye now is 21. 3 of their 5 lowest points allowed have been in the last 4 weeks, 17, 6, and 18. They only had 2 games that were lower than those the entire first 9 weeks of the season. The good news for us is that we have an offense that doesn't give a crap. And so if the Seahawks genuinely aren't that impressive offensively, again, they put up 30 this past week, so everybody's screaming Jackson Smith and Jigba and all this stuff. But in reality, again, prior to that 26, 16, and 20, it's about a, 20, 21 point average? Okay. And they've been kind of doing that all year. I mean, low 20s and then, 34 against the Falcons. 26, 23, 24, 29, there's your big one, 20, 24, 34, 10, 20, 20, 16, 26, 30. So, I mean, I do, just from that very basic standpoint, I do like the matchup. I think their offense is overinflated. Not to say they can't have a big day. Anybody can have a big day. But if they are their standard 20, 21, 22 point kind of a team, am I worried about their defense? Not necessarily. Lions have a very good defense. We put up 31 points. We've scored over 30 points 3 weeks in a row. And that's against teams that have had their defenses pretty well figured out. 38, 30, and 31 is what the Packers have been doing. And they did give up 34, but that was to the Lions. Prior to that, 17, 10, and 19 is all they've allowed. And that 17 against the Dolphins was a Dolphins team that, again, was scoring 30 points kind of a lot. In fact, the defense has had a couple bad games. 34 to the Eagles, 31 to the Vikings, which is a very good team. 27 to the Jaguars isn't great. And 34 to the Lions. Outside of that, 10, 14, 19, 13, 22, 24 to the Lions, 19, 10, and 17. That's really good. I mean, they rank 9th right now in points, and that's having played some of the better offenses in football. Eagles, Vikings, Lions twice. I guess what I'm saying is I think the Packers are a pretty freaking good team. I mean, it's just when you actually look at it, it's like, I don't remember the Packers having this many points allowed under 20. What did they do all of last year? How many games did they hold a team under 20 points? Just curious. Maybe I'm way off on this. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 all of last year. They're at 7 already. Games under 20 points. So this will be a good test. It'll be a good opportunity to get back on track and say, look, that was tough. That was the Lions, man. That's what happens. Our offense cut through their defense. Our defense struggled against a Lions team that's putting up 54 points. Has done that twice now. But guess what? You're not the Lions. You're the Seahawks. So, excuse me. That's what it's got to be, because if they get right back on track, if the offense continues to put up high points, and if the defense can not allow a ton of points, I mean, if it could be low 20s and pushing 30, I mean, 28-21 is more than acceptable to me. That is offense still looking real good, defense still looking solid to me. It's not a prediction, by the way. I'm just saying. But it is nice to just sit back and actually look at what they've done so far this year. The defense really only, again, 4 games you look at and go, that's not great. Offensively, 3 games, 20 against the Bears, 16 against the Colts, which, the Colts game was kind of weird. And then 14 against the Lions the first time around. And multiple of those games. The Chicago Bears one is really the only one that kind of sucks. The Colts and Lions, you're talking, no offense, Malik was great and all. You're talking Malik Willis led offense, and then the Lions game was, maybe we're making excuses, but it was kind of a Jordan is not really himself right now kind of a game. Everything else has been at least acceptable. 24 points to me is perfectly acceptable. We had 24 against the Texans, 24 against the Rams, 29 against the Vikings, 29 against the Eagles, 30 against the Dolphins, 30 against the Jaguars, 30 against the Titans, 31 against Detroit, 34 against the Cardinals, 38 against the 49ers. That's kind of freaking crazy a little bit, especially if you count 29 as basically 30. You're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. Do you know we had only, 5 if we count 29? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games all of last year. 29 against the Lions, 33 against the Vikings, 33 against the Panthers, 38 against the Bears, 48 against Dallas in the playoffs. We've almost doubled the amount of games that we've... I don't know if we understand how good the team is right now. I mean, at Packernet After Dark, we had 2 back-to-back callers kind of point out some things to me that kind of made me realign my thoughts on this team, and I feel like we've been so nitpicky. We've been kind of missing how good the team has been, right? We lost Jordan for a while, and then Jordan wasn't playing great, and all these weird little things that are going on, and I don't know, man. Maybe it's just me. I'm looking at it and I'm going, this is good. I liked who we were by the end of last year, and I don't know, man. Again, we'll see. We'll see if we can just jump right back on the train, and really all I'm talking about is the defense, because the offense never got off the train. If we can just continue this, again, defense, don't give up like 30. Offense, please don't fall apart. If you can just continue doing this, I don't know what to tell you guys. This is a pretty good team. I know some people in the Facebook group might disagree with that. I haven't been super attuned to it. Most of it is my wife kind of just keeping me up to date. She has coined the term juicy man drama. She's keeping me up to date. And she's like, yeah, I don't know, man. They're people are really upset. They're leaving the group. I'm like, what are you talking about? For the record, because there are probably quite a few people in the group listening to the podcast. There's almost 4,000 members in there now. Let me address the situation. First of all, I hate the over-moderation of Facebook groups. So, some people are like, why don't you kick this person out? Because this isn't kindergarten, okay? And because you're grown-ups. I know there's some Facebook groups, I swear there's like 1,000 people in the group and they've got 7 moderators. Guys, we're not doing that. Now, with that said, first of all, anonymous posts will be allowed. Why don't you just make that so you can't do it? Why? Why should I get rid of anonymous posts? Who cares? Somebody has an unpopular opinion and they would rather voice that opinion without people knowing who they are, which I understand that sentiment. You should be allowed to do that. However, apparently there's one guy that wants to just spam over and over and over again, Jordan Love sucks. You're allowed to think Jordan Love sucks. But if you're just spamming the group, because I didn't really realize it, I went scrolling through and it was just him over and over again. Now, we had this problem earlier with people posting articles, and that was the entire group was just articles. And I was like, oh, Lord, that's terrible. So I just banned that. You're not posting any articles in here anymore. No more links, none of that garbage. So that's gone. Now we got people that are spamming with anonymous bullcrap. So I don't know if he realizes or not that I can see who he is. It's not anonymous to me. I'm not obviously going to out the guy, but just so we're all clear, if you spam the group, I can see who you are and I can ban you. I'm not gonna dox you. I'm just saying you're not gonna be in the group. So be cool about it. If you want to say I wasn't impressed with Jordan in that game, you're welcome to do that. If you'd like to do it anonymously, you're welcome to do that. That's perfectly fine. If you want to do that 7 times in a row just to get under people's skin, you're going to get kicked out of the group. And whether or not you get a warning is just going to be up to how much effort I feel like putting into this thing, because reaching out to you in a message and having a dialogue, and that's it's more work than I honestly feel like doing. So, let's frickin' be adults. I shouldn't have to babysit adults. And if you're not going to be, maybe you get a warning, maybe you don't. I don't know. It's one person out of 4,000. So my advice on this Facebook group, or the NFL Draft Facebook group, which is like 28,000 people, one moderator in the entire group. Guy does a fantastic job. By the way, one moderator in that group, 2 including me, but I don't do a damn thing over there. And every single post needs to be approved. And he is freaking on it. I should be paying that guy. I had people reach out and complain that he was being a little, like biased, or if people disagree with him, he bans them. Look, I'm sorry, and maybe I'll talk to him about it, but that guy is invaluable to me. So that is his payment. He's allowed to kick people out that, he probably shouldn't, but oh well. So now you know my stance on the group thing. Please don't beg me to be mommy of the group, all right? I understand. Sometimes people are douchebags, and we got to step in, we got to do something. And unfortunately, it looks like we've gotten to that point. But I issued the warning. I haven't seen any more posts since, so I think we're good. But just please, guys. It's like, where are all the moderators? Bro, why do you need a moderator? You shouldn't need moderators. I understand that you probably do. But all I want to do is let there be a place where Packer fans can get together that are fans of the podcast, that come in, talk Packers, hang out, have a hearty discussion, disagreements or agreements or conversations, share ideas, share stats, have a good time, man. But no, we got juicy man drama. I told my wife that sounds like something that stinks. I don't know. It's kind of gross, but it's funny. I told her I'd mention that on the podcast too. Juicy man drama. With that said, it's a lovely place. And by the way, I appreciate everybody. Get in there and comment. I mean, the problem partially is that somebody's spamming. The other problem is, if he's the only guy that posts for like 2 days, yeah, he's the only guy in there. But post stuff, I don't know. You only show up to find stuff you don't like and then whine about it. I don't know how to help you. Post something else that isn't stupid. On the other side of the break, I do want to actually address some of these things. I know it's mostly just trolling, but why not? Since everybody's mad at me because they're mad at this guy and I'm not doing anything, why don't I just address it? Sound good? We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, so let's have a conversation with Mr. Anonymous, Mr. Negative. First of all, the first one here, I know it's meant to be insulting, but it just seems like a very nice post. Thank you for 2.5 wins this year, Malik. I agree. Thank you for that, Malik. Next post. Just imagine if Jordan Love was above mediocre, where would this team be? Now, kind of less than fun, because we had a little fun looking at Jordan Love already, but let's just focus on addressing exactly the points being made. Now, given his slow start, you could argue he's having a mediocre year. The interceptions don't help. He's got 11 interceptions on the season. If you look at his PFF grade, which is not a bad PFF grade, he's at a 76.8, which is 77, and he ranks 16th. So you figure out of 32, even though there's technically more than that, there's 43 quarterbacks, but out of 32, that is right on the money. I think if we're being absolutely honest, though, is the question, what has the entire season been? Or is it, who is the quarterback that we have right now moving forward? Because if it's, where have we been, the question is kind of silly to begin with, because it's, where would this team be? I don't know. We have a pretty awesome record, maybe 1 or 2 more wins, maybe. I don't know. I can't really ask questions back, but I guess maybe a question would be, where would you like this team to be? Are you not satisfied with where the team is right now? Anyways, if we're not doing that, and if we are looking forward, then we have to look at who Jordan Love has been recently. Now, where you draw that line, you can be super biased in favor of Love if you want. Most people have started cutting it off after the bye. I don't know that that's really necessary because his only bad game of the season was week 5 via PFF. And week 1 was mediocre, 65. Then he goes out with injury. He comes back from injury. He obviously was not ready. He still put up a 70 performance, 69.9, 68 passing grade. LA was the really atrocious game. 44 grade, 40 PFF grade. Since then, he's basically been in the 70s for every game except San Francisco. So if you want, we could just cut it in half would make the most sense. We can go all the way back to week 6 if you want, which honestly kind of makes sense because, again, coming back from injury seemed to have been a couple weeks. I wasn't super sure about LA. I thought maybe a little bit of that was but he started hopping around again. So if you go from week 6, he ranks 11th. It doesn't sound that impressive, but it's an 82 PFF grade. If you're not satisfied with that, 66% completion rate, his adjusted completion rate is 78.4, 1,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Actually, that's not true. I forgot to filter out quarterbacks that threw like 2 passes. He ranks 9th as far as his passing grade goes. 4.9% big-time throw rate, ranks 14th. An adjusted completion percentage, which again has been a really big problem for him, he ranks 5th. The other issue with all this is, again, we can say that we're splitting hairs and he's still mediocre, whatever. I think that that's silly. The bigger issue is going to be the fact that other quarterbacks are below him. If his 82.3 passing grade is mediocre, ranking 9th, then it may interest you to know that Jaden Daniels is 11th, Patrick Mahomes is 12th, Wilson, who's being praised, ranks 14th, Tua is 16th, Jalen Hurts is 18th, Kyler Murray is 22nd, CJ Stroud is 23rd. I think he's doing all right. So, honestly, if we're asking an honest question, let's just assume you can't just grab the top quarterback in football. If you could go back in time and not draft Jordan Love, would you do it? Would you? Where do you think we'd be right now? What quarterback do you think we would have as our starting quarterback right now if we didn't draft Jordan Love? At best, Mac Jones, maybe? 2021, he was selected pick 15. So if we're sitting there at 12 or something, maybe we could have snuck in Mac Jones. Would that have been a better option in your mind? Possibly in 2023, Will Levis. He went in the second round. We might be sitting there with Will Levis. Would that have been a preferable option? Spencer Rattler has actually played some snaps. In fact, he might be starting this week, possibly even against the Green Bay Packers. He was a 5th-round pick. Would that have been preferable? Aiden O'Connell, he's played a little bit. He was a 4th-round pick. That would have been potentially an option for us. Maybe Bo Nix this year, but the problem is we wouldn't have just not gotten a quarterback. So I don't think 2024 really should be in the conversation because the Packers wouldn't have just allowed us to not have a quarterback by this point. Of course, there's always that 1 in 32 ridiculous chance that they land Brock Purdy and that Brock Purdy would be just as successful here. And even then, I don't know that he'd be as good here as Jordan Love, maybe. Seriously, what do you want to do? How many guys that get picked 15th or later end up being just really, really good quarterbacks, especially in that window from when Jordan Love was drafted? I just told you Jalen Hurts is not as good, and I don't believe he's as good. So I guess, first of all, I disagree with the assessment that he's not above mediocre. I think that's nonsense. I think he is continuing to ascend to what he was last year, which was the number 1 quarterback in football down the stretch, but we can just pretend that didn't happen. We can pretend that he's not getting better. Here's another question, or maybe a different way of thinking about things. When you look at the possible outcomes from the moment they drafted Jordan Love all the way through today, think about all the different ways they could have handled quarterback, all the different quarterback prospects they could have possibly drafted. or free agents they could have gone out and acquired. Do you not think it's somewhat shocking that of all the different options, the best one is the one that they did? Again, if you disagree, let me know. Who else was there? You can't tell me Justin Herbert. You can't tell me Joe Burrow. You can't tell me Lamar Jackson. He was later, but way before. That was 2018. You can't go back and get Pat Mahomes. You can't get Trevor Lawrence, not that you necessarily want to. The absolute best possible option is the exact option we have, and you're whining about it because what? Because he was only the 7th best quarterback last week? 6th highest passing grade? That's not good enough for you? It's not acceptable against the number 1 defense or number 2 defense in football to be the 6th best quarterback, the 6th best thrower of the football the entire week? Another post, why are we cutting Love so much slack? Is it hope? I know he's not addressing me, but obviously I do not cut Love slack. I don't. People get mad at me about that. I just say what I'm seeing. And when Jordan Love wasn't playing well, I said it. I don't know what slack he's being cut right now. And you could say, well, maybe he posted this at like halftime when things weren't going well. No, this was yesterday. Again, of all the quarterbacks that played last week, 27 that played enough to qualify in terms of how many throws they threw. 6th highest passing grade, 4th highest yards per attempt, 5th highest big-time throw rate, 0 turnover-worthy plays in the game. What's slack? Then there's Love sucks. That's just outrightly untrue. I mean, we've already established that, from my perspective, above mediocre, so sucks is a stretch. Now we got, just think if Love threw for more than 31 yards and 3 completions in the first half. Okay, well, again, he ended with 60% completion rate, 206 yards, 10.3 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 2 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays, 84 PFF grade, 83 passing grade. And, you know, I don't like when people defend Love or any quarterback based on other stuff because they're just making excuses. But you're out of your mind if you think that, you know, having immediate pressure up the middle, which was acknowledged by the head coach, acknowledged by everybody, was pointed out by, you know, Kurt Bankert and everybody else. Like, this is a serious problem. You got a guy just running right up the middle every time. And then, you know, not surprisingly, as soon as that stopped, Jordan Love started playing well. Just saying, I don't think this is a coincidence. So there you go. There's my thoughts on those comments. I know they're not really, I don't want to say they're not serious because I do think that he believes all this stuff. I guess if you're actually interested in my thought process and why I think that way and why I'm encouraged, you know, has he had that sort of huge breakout game? Not really, but he hasn't been bad since week 5, arguably. You could say, you know, he had that stretch of interceptions. Arizona, Houston 2, Jacksonville, Detroit, and Chicago, an interception every game. That's rough. It's also, as I've said, Jordan Love is the most unlucky quarterback in football. He had exactly that many turnovers. In fact, it's funny. You can go back to week 6 against Arizona. He had 0 turnover-worthy plays, 1 interception. So that wasn't his fault. 2 turnover-worthy plays, 2 interceptions. 1 turnover-worthy play, 1 interception. 1 turnover-worthy play, 1 interception. 1 turnover-worthy play, 1 interception. Let me contrast that. I wanted to save this for another time because there's a lot of talk about how, you know, the Bears have a quarterback that's really been doing a good job when it comes to interceptions. And to be fair, he has. He's been pretty good even with turnover-worthy plays. But I just want to show you the difference. Caleb Williams has not thrown an interception since week 6. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Those weeks, 0 interceptions. That's really incredible. And even the one against Jacksonville, there were 2 games before that. So if you look at starting in week 4, he threw 1 interception. Okay? And even with turnover-worthy plays, it's not terrible. But let's look at the last 3 weeks. Minnesota, 3 turnover-worthy plays, 0 interceptions. Detroit, 1 turnover-worthy play, 0 interceptions. San Francisco, 2 turnover-worthy plays, 0 interceptions. The guy threw 6 interceptions and none of them were caught. In total this season, how many plays were turnover-worthy? In other words, very possibly intercepted if the defender does his job. 15. 5 interceptions is what his official record is. But he's thrown 15 interceptions. And by the way, turnover-worthy plays is significantly more important because once, I've said this before, once the ball leaves your hand, I think everything else is irrelevant. Whether it's dropped, whether it's, tipped, whatever else, it's out of your control. Whether or not the defender actually catches it is beyond irrelevant. How many times did you essentially throw an interception? Now, some of these are more egregious than others, whether it goes off the defender's hand or right into his chest or whatever. 15 he's thrown. 1/3 of those were caught. You know how many turnover-worthy plays Jordan Love has thrown this year? 13. You know how many of those have been caught? 11. Now, his turnover-worthy play rate is higher than Caleb Williams. Caleb, again, he is doing a good job. But there is a huge discrepancy. And, again, in terms of Jordan continuing to play better, he has not had a single turnover-worthy play the last 2 weeks against Miami or Detroit. He has not thrown an interception the last 3 weeks. And in that span, he's thrown 5 touchdowns. His 2 best games have been the last 2 weeks, with last week being his best game. Against Miami, 77.7, 76 passing grade. This past week against Detroit, 84 grade, 83 passing grade. Again, you don't have to take PFF for its word, but just understand that the stats are going to back the grades. That's how that works. His highest big-time throw rate of the season was this past week in Detroit. So you can dislike the grades all you want, but you're also going to have to dislike the stats. And if you don't like the grades or the stats, then you're just whining because you're whining. He has been above a 100 passer rating since the bye week, 113, 108, 129, and 112. I think the team has some issues. There's some things that need to be tweaked. There's some things that need to be worked on. Jordan Love is not necessarily the most elite quarterback we've ever seen in our lives, but to say that Jordan Love is the reason we're not going to win something, I think at this point is kind of silly. And, to be honest, I understand to some degree where the negativity comes from. You have really high demands and expectations, and when people don't meet them, you get angry. Happens to all of us. It's just a matter of whether or not we can recover enough to recognize that it's stupid, and I need to stop that because it's an incorrect thought, and I definitely shouldn't put it on social media where people can see me being stupid. Some people don't have the filter to recognize that it's dumb, and they think that what they're feeling and what they're saying is actually legitimate, and it's not. I don't know why that thing isn't in your brain, but it should be. But all of us watch the TV and watch Jordan Love sail the ball over somebody's head, and, I don't know your exact words, but it's usually something like, come on, frickin' Jordan, God. So sick of that crap. He's wide open. You know what I mean? You've heard me say this stuff doing the podcast and everything else. But that doesn't mean we hold on to it like a grudge all year, and every single time we tack it on and get angrier and angrier. Jordan Love is playing well. The offensive line, honestly, is playing well. There was one mishap with, the snap getting too late, snap count, et cetera, the bottom line. Offensive line, playing well. Running backs, playing well. Wide receivers, playing well. Now, we can piss and moan and whine that Jaden Reed's our superstar, and you didn't get him the ball. Bro, you need to shut up. Because guess what? You can't run the ball 30 times with Josh Jacobs and feed Jaden Reed and get it to Christian Watson and get Tucker Kraft involved. If you're just going to throw a hissy fit every time that every single one of the guys that you like has a huge day, you're never going to be happy. We have too many guys. We scored 31 points. Shut up. How about that? Well, we should have run the ball more times. Why? The offense scored 31 points. That's enough. Not enough to win. Okay, defense. Blame the defense. 31 points against the second best defense is acceptable to me. On some level, we got to recognize that there is a level of supporting your team. It's sort of like family. Your family sometimes, you got some family members that are kind of stupid, right? And you know that they're a little stupid. Now, you can be a douchebag and criticize them and scold them and scream at them. Why are you so stupid? But assuming you're not that person, you kind of come behind them a little bit. You defend them. Somebody talks bad about them, you get angry at them. You support them, you defend them. There's got to be a balance between being honest and not just being the most demanding, angry, scumbag, emotional drama queen in the world. There's got to be a balance. And look, how do you deal with it with family? In public, you don't talk bad about your family. But when we get together and we, kind of just having a little conversation over here, we can talk about it. We can be honest over here. But I think on some level, honestly, what you really need to recognize is that this whole macho bravado thing, trying to put out anger, because that's what tough guys do, is really just displaying to everybody that you're an emotional child. That's what it is. You didn't get what you wanted, and you're throwing a temper tantrum like a child. And you're attacking people that you're supposedly a fan of. Jordan Love is your quarterback. You don't have to lie and say he's great when he's not, but if you're lying to say he's bad when he isn't, you're being an idiot. You're being a spoiled little child who can't control their emotions. You're so angry that you didn't get what you want that you're going to spend an entire week attacking the team that you supposedly root for and trolling other fans who support the same team that are on the same team as you. You're all on the same team, but you're so angry, you got to make sure everybody else is angry and everybody else is miserable just like you are. You got to grow up a little bit. Yeah, you're pissed and it sucks, and I get pissed and it sucks. Get over it. If you can't climb over that hump, if you can't fight through that emotion, that's a serious problem. Especially considering this is just a freaking game. You all know that I struggle, but you know what? You got to get through it. You got to get over it. You're angry. Work through it and move on. And then be honest. Honest about what's good and honest about what's bad. But these temper tantrums don't make you macho. It's sad that you're that hurt by something that silly, that you're that emotionally distressed and hurt and angry that this game has so much control over you. How weak are you if this game has that much control over you? I know it's got control over some of us, and I'm to some degree talking about myself here, but it's the reality. How pathetic are we? If you can't get over it in 24 hours without being just a complete scumbag and attacking other people that root for the same team as you, that are on the same team as you, your own players, your own coaches, all that stuff, and not because you're being honest, but you're being deliberately dishonest just to be a jag-off, that is severe weakness. And I would challenge you to think of it that way and actually battle through that and say, I'm not going to allow this stupid game to dictate my emotions because I'm a grown man. 24 hours. If you got a family, if you got a job, if you got whatever, you probably get less than that. But as far as like calling into the show and everything else and lashing out on social media, within 24 hours, I'll look the other way. After that, you got to grow up. And if you're acting like this actually in person with people, like your family members, you have to go to therapy. Because Jordan's doing a good job. And one more thing, for those, assuming some of these people exist, and I'm hoping that they don't, and I'm talking to nobody. If you are still holding a grudge about Jordan Love, because back when he was drafted, you're so angry from that moment way back there, because it was offensive to Aaron Rodgers, or just because you hated Gutekunst's picks so much, if you're still holding that grudge, my goodness. It's one thing to be mad about like TJ Watt, because it's in our face and it was such a horrible thing. Rodgers at this point in his career would not be here anymore no matter what, and he's not playing well. Jordan is here. It was the best case scenario, and he's playing well. But you're refusing to acknowledge that because you're so angry about something that you were wrong about? That's freaking crazy. I'll leave it at that. Have a good rest of your night. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.